I'm just going to go ahead. I've got really bad internet connection, so we'll see how this goes. So, hello guys, it's Brad from OMMK and the Mark 23 Owners Group. On the table in front of me, you will see two really interesting looking holsters and a rather special suppressor. If the patches on the left haven't already given them away, they are of course from Double Tap Designs and Silverback Airsoft, respectively. So today, I want to do a quick overview of the holsters primarily, and I will be taking a look at the suppressor and the compatibility between the two of them. So these holsters were sent to me by Sebastian at Double Tap Designs. Very appreciative of him doing that, with the suppressor sent from Dennis at Silverback. So on the pouch you can see the two holsters have already been attached, and we'll go into having a look at those first. On the left, you have the compact version, which currently isn't available at retail, but can be requested per person basis. On the right, you have the retail version, which is, of course, the full-size version of the DTT Mark 23 holster. So we'll start with the full version and have a look from there and compare the two as well and see what are the differences between the compact and the full-size, the pros and cons, really, and some of the new details that have been added to this version of the full-size version of the Mark 23 holster. And yeah, we'll have a look at that one first now. So I'm just going to have to hold it up in front of the camera for now, put it in front of the bench in a second. So you can see that the full-size version is mounted on a molly, but in the instruction manual you'll also see that this can be belt mounted. It has the slots available for a belt mounted system as well as the molly. Whereas the compact, you can kind of see that that is really only viable for molly, but it can be rigged up to a belt if you configure it in such a way that the belt slides in between the two hooks here. The full version is obviously a lot larger than the compact, but that's for good reasons. Sebastian has assured me that the compact version doesn't have the support of the full size. You don't have the full spine running down here, as well as the suppressor support and iron sight support offered here. The retention system is obviously a little bit better on the right side too, with there being a little bit more retention around the trigger guard and possibly some height difference. The release buttons are pretty much the same on both versions. I can't see any difference between that. But both offer the click system here. I don't know if there's a more scientific word for that, but they both allow for adjustment, full 360-degree adjustment on the panels, which allows for your drawing angle to be moved around as well. So instead of just a firm locked position, you can rotate as your needs require. So the assembly is really easy. It actually is fairly complicated. When you first open the box, I was unsure how I'd mount this, but after consulting the manual, was able to see that it is simply just a matter of undoing this Allen key right here. So before I disassemble it on the stream here, I'm going to just show you how it mounts and how easy it is to demount. So this is just a Springer version of the Mark 23, just for display purposes really. But surprisingly, it does share one-to-one scaling of the NBB version, so perfect for demonstration. So here we have the holster, the full size. Really is just a matter of clicking into place like that. And again, taking the thumb at the back and clicking out. There's no friction preventing you from doing that, and as you can see, it locks into the iron sight really well. Let that camera focus. Locks into there, giving full support to the suppressor as well. Taking a quick minute to observe the change in this version. This is of course the Silverback Airsoft version, which allows the full-size Silverback suppressor to be locked in firmly. They've taken some material away from the previous version to allow for the suppressor to mount very snugly. There is no rattle elsewhere on this. It locks very, very firmly. There's no way this is coming out under normal duress. The suppressor itself is secured by this retention here, as well as your trigger guard, your magazine release being secured here as well to prevent accidental release of the magazine. There's very little chance of that coming loose during an actual event. So again, just depressing this button here, and it comes loose, clicks back in, again, loose. This button is very, very easy to access during a game. So some of the main complaints, I guess, from people that are used to using the universal type holster is the size of this panel, and also the kind of like the width or depth rather of the holster sticking out from a MOLLE panel. So I tried this on myself, on my rig, and it does come out, some distance from the body. It's not exactly snug, but comparing it to, just one second, comparing it to a Kydex holster, for example, which is from HW holsters. I've used this for over 2 years. The thickness really isn't really that much more than a Kydex holster, for example, which mounts pretty slim onto the MOLLE usually. So yeah, I don't know. Comparing this to universal holster, I think universal holsters are fairly bulky as well. I think these two holsters could be fairly closely matched, I'd say. Can't get an angle really to show you, but there's really not much in them. So I don't think there's too much to worry about in terms of it coming out from the body. If you're underarm mounting it, it's going to sit there. You're going to feel it there, but it's not going to prevent you from using your primary or even your secondary. So I don't think there's too much argument for that. So just pop this off again. It's incredibly easy. I've not used one until now, and I've kind of just based my opinion on what people have been saying, and which has been positive. But having finally tried it, it's a world of difference between a Kydex holster, which firstly is noisy. Secondly, it doesn't have the retention that's offered by the DTD holster. There's no way to stop it from pushing out when you're in terrain, like tree cover or whatever. If something catches the grip and pushes it out, there's nothing to stop that. I know you can get Kydex holsters with that retention, but for the same price that I paid for this Kydex holster, which was well over the retail £55 for the DTD, the retention just is unbeatable on the DTD. And I know that the pistol is exposed. It doesn't have the same protection around this area that a Kydex holster can provide. But if you're mounting this, for example, in a position that's under your arm, there's just little risk of anything catching the weapon. I know maybe if you belt mount it, that could be a little bit more risky than on your MOLLE vest, for example. But again, you've got that retention. If, for example, the suppressor catches something while you're sitting down or you're lying down, there's not going to be anything to push it backwards and out of the holster. There's that retention securing it here. Whereas I've personally experienced problems where the suppressor on the front of the Kydex holster catches the ground or some cover, and I lean back and the suppressor pushes itself out, and I've not lost my weapon, but it's sat like this. It's just kept in the holster by its teeth almost, and you shouldn't have to worry about your pistol coming out of the holster during gameplay. It's the number one thing you don't need to worry about during an op. So that's a plus, a massive plus for the DTD. Of course, another advantage is that instead of having to conceal your holster like I have here, you can apply your concealment directly to your pistol, which a lot of the sniper ops users are doing as standard due to the use of the universal holster. But with the DTD, you can apply your concealment directly to your pistol, as it's non-blowback, you don't need to worry about the slide action. You just apply the concealment straight onto the weapon, which is again a plus, and it takes away, I guess, some of the shape of the holster. Rather than being a big block, the silhouette of the pistol is probably a little bit more natural than a block of concealment. So yeah, that's another plus. We'll just pop this off. Again, one thing about Kylix holsters is you're limited to the mounting system that you choose when you get the Kylix holster made. So this is being a G-code hanger. With the DTD, you can, I believe, purchase specific mounting options, but you always have the standard MOLLE available, which the adapters simply click onto the back of this mounting system here, which we'll have a quick look at. So I'm going to just take an Allen key here, quickly unscrew this. It's as quick as that. Just one Allen key and the whole holster itself is dismounted, leaving only the plate, which, you know, if you have multiple positions, depending on your op, you can buy these mounting plates separately from retailers like SOCOM Tactical, and you can have this plate mounted on your belt holster, and allows you to change between a MOLLE vest and a belt depending on your mission requirements. So I mean, it's just one Allen key, and you can change the direction of the holster. It locks into place. You can feel that click, and yeah, that's it. You swapped out from your main sort of position to your secondary position. If you're running maybe a second pistol as your kind of go-to when you don't need stealth, it's a really good option. So let's just put that aside for now. Take a look at this plate. So you can see that it takes up, realistically it takes up 3 MOLLE slots, which is pretty low profile. The fourth being free to move. It does occupy that 4th and 5th space, but again, you could maybe, if you wanted a drop leg or something, like a dump pouch or something like that, you could fit it under that 4th and 5th. So with this, to dismount it, it's a matter of just clicking this out like that. So that's now loose, and then you slip this bit down and under. So that is your mounting plate, or we call it the 360-degree mounting plate. Put that aside, and then this might be a bit more of a bitch to take out. Might not do it, but you can see that it's secured here. It has a retention hook, just for that extra retention to prevent it from slipping out, and that pops under. And again, you just slide all 3 points, 1, 2, 3, upwards, and it's out. Really easy to mount, and again, if you wanted to put it through a belt, you would just slide the belt through here. It has these teeth here to secure it. Really good. So we put that aside, and we'll have a look at the compact. Compact, as you can see, is similar, has the rotational lock, and again, it's secured by MOLLE at this point. What's interesting is that you can take this button here, underneath where my thumb is, and push these up, and that's one locking pin out. Take this next one. That's the second pin out. And then you can take a belt and just slip it in between this hook right here, and lock it into your belt like that, and that can sit on your belt loose. This would be ideal for maybe CQB, where you haven't got a lot of real estate, and you're not too worried about snagging. This can just sit on that belt, and you have your pistol available to you. You don't need necessarily the support of the spine here. You don't need that additional suppressor support. You might be running loud. You don't have a suppressor mounted on the Mark 23, or you're just not worried about it. So I don't know, maybe contact Seb if you're interested in that. He can maybe offer you a price. I'm not sure what this retails for, the compact version, that is. But it is unique. It is clever. Very, very, very quick to use, and low profile, as you can see. So that's really a cool option. So now that we have the full size free to use, we can take a look again at what exactly was done here for the silverback version. I know that a lot of people, when this silverback suppressor came out, they were like, wow, this is really big and it doesn't fit the DTD suppressor. Seb and the guys at DTD were incredibly fast to act on that, and they took away this material here, get the camera, to allow precise fitment of the silverback suppressor. Again, perfect. There's very little movement there. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like, personally, I have no problem with this. I haven't obviously used it in action yet. I look to use this in a game in the near future. But comparing it to my Kydex, it's really not much in it. Like the material doesn't take up much more space than my Kydex, and I think having that extra peace of mind that it's going to lock and have that retention is something I'm really interested in, and I've longed for some time now. So I'm really positive that it's going to be a good experience using it. Yeah, solid piece of kit. Whilst we're here, I'll have a quick look again at the silverback suppressor. This is, I believe, aluminum made. It has very nice knurling on it, which is this texture here. Not sure if the camera will pick it up. Hello, Ryan. The machining on this is really, really good. It's perfect, as is most of Silverback's products. Threading very easy. I initially had some questions for Silverback when this was announced, whether or not the threading would accommodate the clone and TM threading, both being slightly different, with the TM having a +1 pitch to the 60mm thread. But having tried both the ASG, the Springer, and the TM, there's no problem with the threading, so that's good to go, regardless of which platform you're using. Inside, you have foam fillings. They are dual-sized, I guess you could call them, the bore being slightly wider on some of the foam pieces. You'll see right here. I don't know if the lighting is any good. Let me try this. So here you can see that you have the larger foam. Inside is a smaller piece, and these are basically put in opposites. So you have larger than small, then larger than small, then larger than small, and that sort of creates a good cavity to capture sound and air. You can, of course, take these out and then put them in a different sort of pattern to change the size of the chamber. I know that some Sniper Ops players have done this already, to have a larger chamber in the front and then smaller in the bottom to compress the direction of the air. This is really a good piece of kit. Comparing it to the stock suppressor, this sort of, I guess, on par. I know there's a bit of technical data out there, and I know that I'm capturing some technical data myself for my review of the suppressor, which will come later this month. But I mean, audibly they are pretty similar. The only difference being with the suppressor is that you've got it's a lot chunkier. It's there's less worry about it snapping at the thread, and again it looks more solid. It looks like it will be more effective, and I don't know if that counts for anything, but you can add your own materials in here as well. Like some of us have, we use carpet, we use felt washing pads with holes drilled out through the middle. So there are options here. This allows for a lot more DIY suppression than the stock TM suppressor does, simply because it's a wider diameter. So that is a plus, and maybe if you're considering purchasing this one, that's something you can think about, is that the suppressive qualities that can be gained using this size are better than the stock TM. So yeah, I'm really happy with both of them so far. I've only used this once in a game, and I took out 3 close targets without them knowing I was there. So I guess the suppression is good enough stock, but we'll see how it goes once some DIY is put into that as well. Yeah, so that was generally my quick overview of the DTD Mark 23 holsters and the Silverback Airsoft suppressor. I know there's not many people watching the stream at this moment, but if you have any questions post-stream, please put them up in the comments and I'll try and answer them as best as I can. Thank you for joining me and taking the time to watch this overview. Thank you again to the guys at DTD and Silverback for sending these. I will review them in more depth and be posting blog articles on OMMK.com. Please check them out when they arrive. All right, guys, thank you for joining me.